right, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Let's give it a minute here before we get into the facts and the details and the misinformation in the media. We got a connection? Let me see some confirmation here, ladies and gentlemen. All right. It's time to get woke. It's Friday morning. And some of you may already have started your day. Some of you haven't started yours yet. For some of you in other parts of the world, it might be the middle of the day or even the evening, perhaps. But I want to welcome you to another broadcast of Getting Woke with Joe, the Fullerton Informer. P.O. Box. I keep forgetting this P.O. Box, folks, because I got so many numbers in my head. P.O. Box 4121, Fullerton, California, 92834. And Joe Imbriano 777 at gmail.com. thefullertoninformer.com, wifidangers.com. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, there's a lot of information and a lot of ways to reach out and touch someone, including me. So I want to talk to you about this this mystery illness that is sweeping the nation. Now the media refers to this polio-like disease as one that is sweeping the nation. Hundreds and hundreds of cases of acute flaccid myelitis are presenting themselves in young children all across the country. I believe almost every state has a case now. And with the quadrillions of dollars in the white coats with the machinery to diagnose and destroy people that the medical system has, they do not know what is causing this disease. I have spoken on this at great length in at least 5 or 6 different videos, ladies and gentlemen. And I'm going to be very brief and very frank with you right now. There are several ways that you can guarantee that your child will not succumb to acute flaccid myelitis. And the first thing you can do to avoid your child from coming down with this bizarre neurodegenerative condition is to avoid all soy products and phytoestrogen products like the plague. That means soy formulas and soy milk and soy ice creams and compounds that contain high levels of phytoestrogens like beer, because they contain hops, and hops have one of the highest concentrations of phytoestrogens in any type of food product next to soy. So avoiding soy and beer, if you're a lady and you're pregnant or you're nursing or you're going to get pregnant, because the women that give birth to the children pass on the autoimmune disorder that's induced by high levels of estrogen in the body. Another problem is the birth control. Estrogen levels are responsible for this problem. You've got to be careful with what you put in your body, ladies, especially if you're going to have children. The second thing you can do to protect your child from coming down with acute flaccid myelitis is make sure that if you're pregnant or if you're nursing or if you have young children, that is to consume turmeric. It is an anti-inflammatory. It has tremendous anti-inflammatory properties. And the textbook symptoms of this presentation of disease, as they call it, is an inflammation of the spinal cord and demyelination of the nerves and the neurons in the spinal cord. And of course, the third thing you can do, this goes without saying, is avoiding the vaccines, because that's one of the side effects, ladies and gentlemen. All right, so I've summed it all up. There you have it. And this disease is not a mystery. The majority of the cases that we're finding are in young children. And what we're not being told is the common denominator in all these children, and that is they're fed soy formulas, and their mothers probably consumed high levels of phytoestrogen-containing products in the womb. When the child was in the womb, was exposed to high levels of phytoestrogen products in the womb. And what ends up happening is this child, while it's developing, develops a congenital defect of the immune system, an autoimmune disorder, in which the body's immune system as a result of tremendous phytoestrogen exposure in utero. The child develops an autoimmune disease where it attacks the spinal cord. The immune system will attack the spinal cord in the presence of enteroviruses, such as the common cold, folks. Okay, so no shots. Put turmeric in your food and your soups. And, of course, avoid phytoestrogens like the plague, ladies and gentlemen. That's a solution. And, of course, don't eat garbage. And, I forgot the fourth thing. And, I'm not sure how this is going to play out with these children. But wireless exposure is obviously a component of this as well. And your family needs to eliminate all of it as much as possible. And I would venture to say that if you followed those 4 steps, you've got nothing to worry about, ladies and gentlemen. I've got 4 children. I am not worried about these plagues. I'm not worried about any of these things they're hyping up, because I don't inject my children with a toxic brew of pharmacological agents that clearly, in the own writing of the pharmaceutical industry, has not been tested for impairment of fertility, mutagenic potential, or carcinogenic potential. And I can tell you right now that what's happening to these children is something that could be attributed to a mutagenic or carcinogenic agent. And I'm going to take us back to the 1950s, when we had a similar problem, when we had a massive amount of phytoestrogens in the food supply. And it wasn't tofu and soy milk back then, folks. What it was diethylstilbestrol being added to the animal feeds. And it was also even prescribed to pregnant women back in the day. And so this combined with the DDT exposure, similar to how we have pesticide exposure with glyphosate in the wheat and all the food products, and all of the dried vegetable beans and things like that. You'd be amazed what they're putting glyphosate on, folks. We've got to avoid the phytoestrogens, and we've got to avoid the vaccines. We've got to avoid wireless exposure, and we've got to consume turmeric. Turmeric's dirt cheap, folks. Dirt cheap, and it's mucho bueno. See this? All right, let me give you a little rundown here, folks. Starts with 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar, a couple of ice cubes, some distilled water, some coral powder, let's see, allspice, black pepper, turmeric, collagen, spirulina powder, ginger. Today we had a sweet lime and a Eureka lemon squeezed into this bad boy, cayenne pepper, and cinnamon. And, of course, pink Himalayan salt. Am I forgetting anything? Let me taste it and see. Got a kick to it. And who doesn't need a kick in the morning? Who doesn't need a kick in the morning, folks? All right, so that's that. So let's put that issue to bed. Now let's talk about something else. There's this infestation of these Asian ticks that are now becoming a problem because the CDC is worried about this new tick that has arrived. Before, this tick was only seen in the laboratory in the United States, ladies and gentlemen. Did you hear what I said? This Asian tick that can reproduce without a mate, it can lay up to 2,000 eggs at a time, has only been seen in the laboratory prior to now. And now they've claimed that it made its way into the general population because they found one on a pet sheep in New Jersey. Now, how did these ticks go from the laboratory to somebody's pet sheep? Does anybody care to answer that question? Well, it turns out that this particular species of Asian tick is capable of spreading diseases to humans like dengue and West Nile and Zika and some of these other dreaded neuroinvasive encephalitic type diseases. So here we go once again with another potential causative agent for this acute flaccid myelitis that is sweeping the nation, as the media calls it. So now we got to worry about bugs that could bite us, that are crawling around on the dogs and on the rats and on the possums. You see, they got us worried about the mosquitoes, even though they're releasing all these mosquitoes that have had gene drives inserted in them. They're releasing all these mosquitoes that have been infected with Wolbachia bacteria. They're releasing all these mosquitoes that are non-native to this region, that are extremely difficult to deal with. And so now we got a new problem, folks. It's this new Asian tick, and this comes on the heels of this acute flaccid myelitis outbreak. You see, folks, they're bringing polio back. I know they relabeled it and they put it on a shelf and they changed the diagnostic criteria that were required to conclusively diagnose. But now we've got it back in black, back in whatever. They're not calling it polio yet, but they will come out eventually and say, yep, we've confirmed this is a new strain of polio. They're going to come out and say, hey, we've got a new vaccine that must be mandated for everybody, including the adult population, blah, 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 blah. That's where this is heading, ladies and gentlemen. Now, obviously, you don't want to be sleeping in a bed with possums and rats and cats and dogs that have these ticks. But, you know, ticks are a fact of life in a lot of the United States. The problem is the government keeps playing with things in laboratories and then releasing them on purpose and saying that they don't know how it got out. That's right. You know, when you were a little child or you're a little kid and you let the dog out and then you told your mom you don't know how the dog got out. You don't know how the dog climbed over that 6-foot fence. You don't know how the dog with its 4 legs managed to open the lock on the gate. And so you tell your mom, oh, I don't know how the dog got out. I have no idea. Even though it defies logic how the dog got out. Well, that's what the government does with us. Because the government acts like a stupid little child when in fact they're a devious bunch of demonic scum. And there's all kinds of eugenics programs they got going right now. And of course, you know, hyping up disease to push forced vaccination is one of the oldest tricks in the book. We saw this after the polio invention and the proliferation of DDT and diethylstilbestrol in all of the animal feeds, when all the cows and the chickens were chowing down on a bunch of estrogen-laced feed, and the women were chowing down on the estrogen-laced cream-top milk that the milkman was delivering in a glass bottle on the icebox on the porch, and chowing down on that nice ice cream and cheese, and chowing down on those milkshakes in those pharmacies back in the 50s. You know what I'm talking about, ladies and gentlemen. Everybody was drinking this milk that was laced up with diethylstilbestrol in the 50s, and we had a polio outbreak because they were driving around big trucks spraying DDT everywhere. Well, everybody was hopped up on phytoestrogens in their diet. They were getting sprayed to kingdom come with DDT. That's right, they were putting DDT all over the place, folks. They had DDT wallpaper. You know, when I was growing up, I had Farrah Fawcett posters on my wall, but when my parents were growing up, and don't get me started on Farrah Fawcett, because I think it was actually not a woman looking back, and I'm really, really disturbed by this finding. But my parents had DDT wallpaper when they were growing up. That's right, they had DDT impregnated wallpaper. They were spraying DDT on everything. You'd be sitting at the lunch tables having lunch at school, and a truck would drive by and spray you with DDT. They put DDT. They put so many chemicals on everything back then, and they had everybody hopped up on all these phytoestrogen-laced foods. Well, guess what, ladies and gentlemen? Everybody's hopped up on phytoestrogen-laced foods today. All the soy, all the beer with all the hops, and I use that word hopped up lightly here, folks, no pun intended. And we've got the same chemical assault on us today with glyphosate. Glyphosate and all the petrochemical derivatives. You know, I'm a little finicky when it comes to certain things, and you know, there's one thing I won't eat, and that is strawberries, and let me tell you why. Because, well, let me take that back. I will eat the strawberries that I grow at my house, but they happen to be the size of my thumbnail. And when you go to the store, these strawberries are the size of your wrist. Now, the problem with these strawberries at the store is when I pick up the box and I go to smell them, and I can smell the sulfur and the chemical compounds on these strawberries, and I go to put the box down, and that stupid sulfur and chemical smell stays on my hand all day, and it makes me sick. So I cannot stand eating the strawberries in the store. And even the phony organic ones, they got the same smell. As a matter of fact, you can use the same chemical compounds on these organic ones, because as long as these chemical compounds occur naturally in the soil, like sulfur, then they can use sulfur on the strawberries. So, you know, the strawberries stink. And you know what else stinks is those grapes in the store. I can't eat those either. Now, I have grapevines in my home, and I eat tons of grapes. When they're ripe, I will literally eat a pound of grapes at a time, because I have Concords and Norton and Niabel and Zinfandel, and they're delicious because they don't stink like chemicals. We're being poisoned, folks. The store has all these fruits and vegetables that are jacked up with all these pesticides, and they're fertilized with all this chemical concoction. So the same phenomenon's taking place. And you know, I went to a Korean market not too long ago in Buena Park, and the reason I go to this is because my mother-in-law's Korean, and she likes to get her Korean goodies. My wife's Korean. She doesn't eat that much Korean food, but she likes to go to the Korean market. But I go in there, and you know, my wife had to tell me to shut up, because I started laughing at the grapefruits that were the size of softballs. And, excuse me, apples that were the size of softballs. And there were pomegranates in there the size of a volleyball. I'm not kidding you. And these apples were the size of like 2 softballs. And it's horrendous. It's horrendous. Total frankenfruit, ladies and gentlemen. So you wonder why we're getting sick. Well, not me, but maybe other people. I don't eat that garbage, folks. And by the way, you don't need to be eating all day long. You don't need to be taking all this food to work for lunch and having 5 meals a day. You know, slow down on it, you know. Look into limiting the amount of food that's required to survive for a human is very minimal compared to what we've been led to believe. And we're being tantalized and tintillated by these commercials, these jingles, and these songs. And you know, I remember what would you do for a Klondike bar? You know, remember that commercial from the 80s? You know, I mean, what would you do for a Klondike bar? It's stuck in my head because it was a stupid but hilarious commercial. And it was kind of insulting. And, you know, before long, I remember Klondike bars ended up in my freezer at my house. It worked on my parents, I guess. I didn't buy them. My point is that we don't need to eat all this crap, and there's way too much crap that we're eating, and there's way too much crap in the grocery store that's crap. And you want to know why everybody's sick is because they're eating crap, and they're being exposed to all these chemicals and all this microwave radiation from all these technologically advanced weapons that they've managed to bring into their homes themselves. So, and then, of course, you know, we've got a generation of children that has had more injections than a pediatric pincushion, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, these kids are going to end up with 70 shots by the time they're 18, and you wonder why they end up on these serotonin reuptake inhibitors by the time they get into high school, because they end up as a result of a stated fact that the vaccine manufacturers clearly lay out in plain English in bold print, printed on bleached paper that comes in the box of the poison. And it says that the vaccine has not been tested for mutagenic potential, carcinogenic potential, or impairment of fertility. So why in the world would you put this in your child's body? Well, it's because you've been told to. Because you're a Pavlovian rat. That's right. They ring the din-din bell and you come a-running. And when they say jump, you say how high. And I'm here to tell you to say hell no. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. It's time. It's hammer time for the vaccines. It's hammer time for the poison in the grocery store. It's hammer time for the TV. It's hammer time for the Wi-Fi. It's hammer time for the LED lights. Have I gone into this already? It's hammer time in general for everything they got aimed at you. And you know what? It's hammer time for that beer. Put it down, ladies. It's not ladylike to drink beer. Ladies, if you're going to drink, would you please make it a nice dessert wine so it only takes 1 glass? Okay, come on, stop killing yourselves, folks. You know, I was at a grocery store. It was I think on a Wednesday night. It was about 10:30, and I don't go to grocery stores very often because Quite frankly, it's very disturbing to me to see what I see in there. But I watched these people, two of these people wandering around aimlessly in this grocery store at 10:30 at night, and they looked like they had no business being in a grocery store, if you know what I'm saying. And it's really sad that they've immersed us in so much of what we don't need and have gotten us addicted to. You know, when I saw these two gentlemen wandering around these grocery stores by themselves, you know, aimlessly, just, you know, surrounded by all this stuff that's killing them. And it was killing them by the looks of these gentlemen. It was sad. You know, I don't make fun of these people. My heart breaks for these people, folks. That's why I'm trying to warn you not to kill yourself with all this stuff. But these gentlemen, obviously they weren't married. They were by themselves and in very poor health. And they were my age, folks. They're in their 50s. And they did not look like me. They were at least 2 to 3 times the size of me. And they were wandering around this grocery store. That is the last place they should have been at 10:30 on a Wednesday night. But it reminded me of some of these people you see wandering aimlessly around a casino after they had lost all of their money. And you know, you could tell that person by just how they look all despondent and dejected and in despair, but they can't leave the casino, right? You know, and so they've done this with food. They've got everybody addicted to all this food. We don't need all this food, folks. It is amazing how little you need to eat to survive. And if you don't believe me, ladies and gentlemen, just ask anybody that doesn't live in the United States. And they'll tell you that you don't need that much to eat to survive. At any rate, ladies and gentlemen, I just want to warn you that there's a lot of things you can do, in a lot of ways you can make changes to improve your life. And they don't require hiring a therapist or a psychologist or a psychiatrist or a dietitian. It's, you know, these two hands, folks, they're incredibly powerful. You either choose to pick something up and do something with it or not. And it's all about training your hands, okay? You tell your hands, no, don't do that. You tell your child, hey, don't pick that up, it'll burn you. Son, don't pet that dog, it'll bite you. Son, don't stick your hand inside there, you'll cut your fingers off. Look, folks, the same applies to us grown-ups. And if we know what's bad, why do we have our hands engage in the practice of exposing ourselves to it? Well, that's a good question, ladies and gentlemen. And it really is a matter of mind over matter. I forgot to mention a shout out to my sponsor today, Jesus Christ, the Son of God, Yeshua HaMashiach, the sinless Messiah that shed his sinless blood for the sins of humanity. For those who will accept it, their sins are forgiven. And I would strongly suggest that all of you come into the fold, ladies and gentlemen. And it's never too late to do the right thing. God is the author of U-turns. He allows them. He creates the U-turn sign. Did you know God created the U-turn sign, folks? That's right. When his son came and showed us the way and stated the simple fact that he is the way, the truth, and the life, and no one comes to the Father but through him, that is the beginning of the U-turn sign, folks. There was never a U-turn sign ever on the face of the earth until Jesus Christ paid it all, folks. That's right. So, here we are on a Friday, and I know a lot of you are probably going to do some things you shouldn't do this weekend. And I need you to ask Jesus Christ to help you to stop doing those things. He helped me. That's right. He can help all of us. If you want power to say no, and if you want wisdom to answer your questions, it's there for the taking, folks. Open God's Word. The Bibles are available at the 99-cent store. You go to church, you probably won't learn anything, but you will end up falling asleep after you have the donut they give you. And, you know, if you go to a good church, more power to you, folks. Support it, okay? I'm sure they're out there. There's some out there. There's just not enough of them. But you need to get into God's Word yourself and read the Bible and understand it. There's tons of information on the Scriptures out there, folks, including the Scriptures themselves. All right, that's enough. You got it. You got it, right, folks? You know the drill, right? Don't fall for the lies. Don't inject your kids. Don't feed them sugar. You know, by the way, I don't say this enough. Did you know sugar is probably the biggest weapon aimed at the American people right now? I mean, sugar's a bioweapon, folks, because it feeds all the pathogens, the parasites and the germs and everything else. Makes you fat, makes you sick, makes you inflamed, it causes all kind. If there is one thing you could do in your life right now besides accepting Jesus Christ and his finished, sinless, shed blood on that cross as full atonement and propitiation for your sins, the one thing you could do is eliminate all sugar from your life. It's white death, folks. Sugar is white death. And I don't care if your children like lollipops or ice cream. You know what? You better limit the living crap out of that stuff, because it's going to kill your kids. And let me tell you how. Because your children will fall ill to deadly disease that would otherwise be harmless in a healthy child. That's right. Our children are so jacked up on sugar, and they are so sick. Actually, not my children. Perhaps a lot of children. Not my children. Because sugar's not something... We don't have soda in the refrigerator. You know, if there's ice cream in the house, it's probably a pint for the 7 people that live in my house. And it lasts more than a week. Okay? All right? I'm telling you, do not feed white death to your family. All right? I'm telling you, sugar is a weapon, and they're waging it very handily against us, folks. They've packaged up this weapon and made it sleek and seductive, and they've slipped it into everything in your homes. You ever seen some of these commercials on TV for the chocolate? You would think the woman's going to have an orgasm by eating that thing. It's unbelievable. It's amazing what they do to get you to take their poison, isn't it, folks? I'm here to tell you that it's hammer time, folks. And the nice thing about Friday is you have plenty of time to find your hammer. And you have plenty of time to reflect on where to apply the pressure of that hammer as it swings. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is Joe Imbriano, the Fullerton Informer, P.O. Box 4121, Fullerton, California, 92834. And coming to you in the name of Jesus Christ, Yeshua HaMashiach, telling you the truth, ladies and gentlemen, the truth about what matters, and about things in life that are dirt cheap and tremendously effective, like turmeric and shutting off the Wi-Fi and getting rid of the sugar and getting right with God, because Jesus saves, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for tuning in this morning. The weekend, I may be off, I may be on, I don't know. It's normal for me to tune out on the weekends because, hey, I got a life to live too, ladies and gentlemen. Don't we all? God bless. Talk to you soon.